TP flow. I've got a matter waves operator emitting particles from a plane. Pretty straightforward. You see, they just sit there. Not too interesting. If I go down here, you can see one of the operators that comes with Fume effects. It's the Fume effects follow operator. You can take any thinking particles group and pipe that in there. You also have inputs to control any of the parameters that you see here. You'll notice
again.
that I have selected my Fume effects group, which is the Fume effects group that this operator will be referencing, and have
be showing some more highlights of the integration between Fume effects and thinking particles.
Back in my scene file, when I play this with that operator,
in this scene
you can see the particles are
here,
now
I have a sphere, and I have my trusty TP system. And if you're not familiar with TP, one of the cool features about it is it's really easy to get objects in your scene and bring them into thinking particles. You get their position, orientation, as well as their shape. So I'm going to bring up my TP window here, and you'll see that I have this object to particle operator. And like its name suggests, it takes objects and turns them into particles. So I'm going to go ahead and select my sphere, and you'll notice it pops up in this list box here, and I'm going to pipe that into the sphere group, which relates over to here, which is the group master hierarchy of the TP system. In addition to that, I'm also going to enable instance shape. So when I go ahead and play here, you'll notice that there's this red overlaying here. So if I go ahead and select my sphere and hide it, I now have this red doppelganger sphere of my max object. If I select that, you'll see that it pops up as Thinking 01. So that's my thinking particles system. So that's one facet of TP's stealing objects from the system. Now another thing you can do is enable this checkbox here, which is groups as objects, and that feature, like again its name suggests, is it takes your TP group systems up here like this hierarchy, and they're now accessible as objects. So if I select, I now have a sphere, so I can select that, and its max basically treats it as an object, and as such I can apply modifiers to it. So I could go here and apply a little noise, and you can see that it's actually affecting the geometry of a particle. But we can get into that in another video. The most immediate application of that in regards to Fume effects is, of course, with Fume effects sources. And since this here is a Fume effects object source, now I can go and pick this groups as object particle, and it reads it just fine. So I have some fuel set up here and some temperature, and I'm just going to go ahead and open up FFX and a little preview window, and if I start simulating, you'll see that there's fire coming off of this sphere, and I actually have a map on there, so it's only coming off the top of it. So that's pretty cool. So I can take Fume effects and emit fire from a particle geometry. Now, you wouldn't normally bring a sphere into a particle system to just sit there, so I'm going to unhide the sphere's friends. I've got a couple boxes here and a floor, and go back into my TP window, and I'm going to add those boxes in as well. I'm going to apply those into the box group and also instance their shape, and I'm going to go ahead and hit hide, and you'll notice when I rewind, I have boxes as objects as well, so I can select those. And as such, I can go into my Fume effects interface and select this box group, and it's now a deflector. So I have a Fume effects system that is emitting from particle sources as well as deflecting from particle sources. And to add thinking particles wonderfulness to that, I can turn on my motion and my simulation dynamic sets where I have some gravity and this shape collision operator, which is thinking particles integrated rigid body system. And if I go ahead and play here, you can see that I have boxes dropping and colliding properly. So in concert with Fume effects, if I start simulating here, you can see that there's fire, and it's kind of falling around, and there's going to be some deflection. And I'm going to stop this here and just open up the scene where I have that all cached. And if we go ahead and you see we've got that cached, and now when I turn on my display for FFX, you can see that there's smoke and fire, and it's swirling around. And I can actually just bring up this preview window and hit play, and you can see that there's smoke coming up and it's tumbling around, and that's all pretty cool. So that is just sort of a glimpse of some of the possibilities that you can have when you integrate TP and Fume effects. If you're interested in learning more about Fume effects or thinking particles, or both of them together, come on by cgfluids.com and online forums focusing on tips, techniques, and support for both of these products. Thanks again, and hope you watch the next video.